Welcome to the chemistry class, and today I'll continue your surface chemistry chapter, and today I'll discuss the properties of colloidal solution. First we'll discuss the mechanical properties. Mechanical properties. In mechanical properties, here first we will discuss the Brownian movement in colloidal solution. That is Brownian movement in colloidal solution. Okay. Colloidal particles are in constant and rapid zigzag motion called Brownian movement, and the phenomenon was first observed by Sir Robert Brown in the year 1827. So the motion is like this. So this is called the Brownian movement. Okay. Suspension and true solution do not exhibit this type of Brownian movement of the colloidal particles. Now, what is the explanation of Brownian movement? The Brownian movement in a sol is caused by unequal bombardment of the molecules of the dispersion medium on the colloidal particles. When more molecules strike the particles of one side than the other, then the direction of the motion changes. Suppose this is a particle and this side is bombarding 4 particles and this side is 1 particle. Definitely the movement of this particle will be towards this. This will be the movement. So there is some unbalanced force. Okay, because of this bombardment, okay, the unbalanced force, and there will be the movement of this particle, and this is the explanation for the Brownian movement. Now, what is the significance of Brownian movement? It confirms the ceaseless motion of molecules as predicted by the kinetic theory, and the rapid and the random movement prevents the settling of the colloidal particles by gravity and thus helps in stabilizing the colloidal solution to some extent. So we know that if we keep the colloidal solution for a long time, then there will be no precipitation, and this stability is coming because of this Brownian movement of the particle. Okay, so these are the mechanical properties. Next we will discuss the optical properties. When a strong beam of light is passed through a colloidal solution, the path of the light becomes visible when viewed from a direction at right angle to that of the incident light. This is due to the fact that the solid particles absorb light energy and they scatter it in all directions, and the phenomenon of scattering of light by solid particle is called Tyndall effect. And the illuminated beam, okay, or cone formed by the scattering of light by solid particles is called Tyndall beam or Tyndall cone. Okay, if we draw the diagram, then you can easily understand. So here will be one light source. This is the light source from where light is coming, and this light we are passing through lens. Here is one lens. Okay. Now, if we take some true solution, This one is true solution. Then this light will pass through this true solution, but light beam will not be visible. So here light beam is not visible. But next, if we keep another colloidal solution we can prepare by taking the egg albumin and little bit of sodium chloride and water. We can take starch solution, okay, in water. That will be the colloidal solution. So this is colloidal solution. Colloidal solution. Then in this case, what will happen? We will able to see the path of this light. Okay, here the light beam will be visible. Okay, so here this is the colloidal solution. So here light beam is visible. Okay, so the illuminated beam, this illuminated beam, okay, formed by the scattering of light, and this is called the Tyndall beam. This beam is called Tyndall beam, and there will be the scattering of light. Okay, here will be the scattering of light. Now Tyndall effect is not shown by true solution. Here true solution is not showing the Tyndall effect. Okay, because the ions or solute molecules do not scatter light due to their small size. The Tyndall effect can be used to distinguish between a true solution and a colloidal solution. Only through colloidal solution the path of the light will be illuminated. But when it is passing through the colloidal solution, the light will be illuminated, but path of the light will be illuminated, but through solution there will be no illumination of the light. Okay. Next we will discuss the factors on which the scattering of light depends. First one is the wavelength of the light used. Next we are discussing the factors. Wavelength of the light used. Scattering of light is inversely proportional to the wavelength of the light used. That is why scattering of blue light, okay, is maximum. Hope you can understand. Next is the size of the particle. Scattering increases with increase in the size of the dispersed phase particle. So if you increase the size of the particle, definitely the scattering will increase. Next one is the color of the colloidal solution. The color. The color of colloidal solution also changes with the manner in which the observer receives the light. For example, a mixture of milk and water appears blue when viewed by the reflected light, but will observe red when viewed by the transmitted light. And the fourth point is there is the difference in refractive indices of dispersed phase and dispersion medium. Larger the difference in the refractive indices of dispersed phase and dispersed medium, more will be the scattering, and hence lyophobic salts will show more scattering. So these are the factors on which this that optical properties, that means Tyndall effects, depend. Okay. Next we will discuss the electrical properties. First one is the electrophoresis. Okay, colloidal particles of a sol either carry positive or negative charge. Sols in which the colloidal particles carry positive charge are called positive sols, and if they carry negative charge, they are called negative sols. The existence of the charge on the colloidal particles can be demonstrated by a phenomenon called electrophoresis. When a sol is placed in an electric field, colloidal particles move towards either cathode or anode depending upon their charge. Okay, generally cation will move towards cathode and anions will, negative charge will move towards the anode. And this migration of colloidal particles under the influence of electric field towards an electrode is called electrophoresis. If the movement of the colloid particle or colloidal particles is towards cathode, then it is called cataphoresis, and the reverse is called anaphoresis. Okay. Next we will discuss the application. Application means that electrophoresis. This process can be utilized in determining the charge on colloidal particles. It finds application in remaining carbon from smoke, dirt from sewage, and in electrodeposition of rubber. Okay, so these are the applications of the electrophoresis. Next we will discuss another thing that is called electroosmosis. Colloidal particles, electroosmosis. Colloidal particles carry either positive or negative charge, and the sol as a whole is electrically neutral. Therefore, the dispersion medium carries an equal but opposite charge to that the colloidal particles. Thus, the dispersion medium will move in opposite direction to the dispersed phase under the influence of electric field. When the dispersed phase is kept stationary and the dispersion medium is actually found to move towards one or the other electrode. Okay, and the movement of the dispersion medium under the influence of an electric field is called the electroosmosis. Now, what will be the application of this electroosmosis? Electroosmosis can be used in dewatering in moist clay, drying of dye pastes, and removal of water from peat. Okay, so these are the application of electroosmosis, and today we will discuss up to this. Next day we will discuss the coagulation part, and there is one rule that is called Hardy and Sulzer rule. Okay, so today up to this, thank you.